Hey everyone, ready to level up your English? We're doing a deep dive into the ultimate guide to English fluency today.
Cool.
Yeah? It's packed with tips and tricks. We'll be pulling out the most valuable stuff. Trust me, you might be surprised by some of this.
Oh, absolutely. This guy's got a really interesting approach.
Hmm.
Right off the bat, it's all about, like, a holistic thing, Not just grammar and vocab,
Mm-hmm.
but also, like, setting goals and finding your community.
Right.
It gets that fluency isn't just memorizing words, it's how it all fits together.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like if you're building a house, you wouldn't just start randomly throwing bricks around, right?
Exactly.
You'd need a plan, a solid foundation,
Yep.
and a vision for what you're actually trying to build. So where does this guide say to start?
What really stresses setting clear goals,
Hmm.
specific ones.
Hmm.
It might sound kind of obvious, but a lot of people jump into learning a language without really thinking about why they're doing it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could have a clear why. Like, do you want to travel the world and actually talk to people?
Right.
Ace those TOEFL or IELTS exams.
Mm.
Finally watch movies without subtitles.
Oh, yeah.
Having that why in your mind,
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference for motivation. It keeps you on track.
It makes sense. Like, if you don't know where you're going,
Right.
any road will get you there or something like that, right?
Exactly.
But if you have goals, it's like having a roadmap. You can actually see your progress.
Totally. And speaking of building blocks, the guide goes deep on vocabulary and grammar. The foundations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to start with everyday words and phrases, stuff you'll actually use,
Practical stuff.
real life situations.
Right.
Now, here's a cool fact. Some research from UC Berkeley showed that learning vocabulary in context, like through stories or songs,
Mm-hmm.
way more effective than just like memorizing lists.
Oh, wow.
Students who learn new words through stories, they remember them up to 40% better.
40%. That's massive.
It is.
But it makes sense, though. Think about it. You're way more likely to remember a word if you learned it singing along to a song
Right?
than just seeing it on a flashcard.
Absolutely.
So context is super important. Okay, but what about grammar? A lot of people find it super intimidating.
Yeah, that's true. But the guide does a really good job breaking down that intimidation. It explains how, even if you just master the basic grammar rules,
Mm-hmm.
it makes a huge difference in how clearly you can communicate.
Right.
It's like understanding the structure of a building.
Mhm.
You might not be an architect, but
Yeah.
if you know how the beams and supports work, you could appreciate the design better.
So it's more about understanding the principles than memorizing every single rule.
Exactly.
Right.
And the guide suggests some practical things to make grammar less scary, like making lists of common verbs,
Mm-hmm.
nouns, adjectives,
Okay.
or practicing making sentences every day. Verbs are your action words.
Right.
Nouns are your people, places, and things. Adjectives are the descriptive stuff you add in. Breaking it down into smaller pieces like that.
Yeah,
Practicing regularly. You'll be surprised how quickly those rules start to stick.
I like that idea, breaking it down.
Yeah.
And the guide mentioned some digital tools too, like Grammarly.
Oh, yeah. Tools like Grammarly are super helpful.
Right.
They catch those little grammar mistakes,
Mm.
help you refine your writing. It's like having a little editor right there with you.
Okay, so we've covered a lot already, but we haven't talked about listening yet, which I imagine is pretty crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember when I first started trying to understand native English speakers,
Mm.
I was completely lost.
It can be tough.
Sure.
Listening is often overlooked, but it's so crucial, not just for understanding what people are saying, but also for improving your own pronunciation.
Okay.
When you tune in to the rhythm, the intonation, the nuances of spoken English,
Uh-huh.
you're training your ear, getting ready to speak more naturally yourself. It's like learning a new dance move. You got to watch and really get it before you can do it yourself.
So how does the guide suggest we improve our listening skills? Just listen to a bunch of podcasts and movies?
Well, it recommends taking it gradually. Like, start by watching English shows with subtitles,
Okay.
but challenge yourself to rely on them less and less as you improve.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you might not need them at all.
Oh, wow.
Podcasts and audiobooks are great, too. They expose you to different accents, different speeds.
Right.
And don't be afraid to hit rewind.
Uh-huh.
Repetition is key.
Okay, got it. Start slow, gradually increase the difficulty.
Yep.
Repeat until it feels natural.
Exactly.
But what about speaking? That's often the scariest part for English learners.
Oh, for sure.
Like, understanding English is one thing, but actually speaking it out loud,
Right.
totally different ballgame.
You're right. For many people, speaking is the most daunting part.
Huh.
But here's what's cool. This guide reframes it as an exciting opportunity for real communication.
Okay.
It emphasizes the joy of expressing yourself, sharing your thoughts and ideas, connecting with others in a new language. It's about shifting your perspective from fear to excitement.
Oh, I like that. Instead of seeing it as a test,
Right.
see it as a chance to connect.
Exactly.
But how do you actually get over that initial fear of speaking?
The guide has some great tips. For instance, there are language exchange platforms like HelloTalk or Tandem.
Okay.
They connect you with native speakers for conversation practice.
Mm.
And here's something you can do right now. Record yourself speaking English.
Uh-huh.
Listen back to it.
Okay.
You'll hear areas where you can improve your pronunciation, fluency,
Right.
even the vocabulary you're using. It's like watching game footage to see where you can up your game.
That's a great idea. And I bet you get more comfortable with the sound of your own voice speaking English the more you do it. Yeah.
You definitely do. The more you practice, the less scary it becomes. And don't forget about everyday opportunities.
Like what?
Ordering food, asking for directions,
Mm-hmm.
even just chatting with the barista at your favorite coffee shop. Those little interactions make a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Build your confidence.
Right.
Help you get more fluent.
That's a good point. It's about taking advantage of every chance you get to immerse yourself in the language. And speaking of immersion, this guide has a whole section on that, right? Why don't we jump into that next?
Let's do it. Immersion. It's like the key, right? It's like jumping into a pool instead of just dipping your toes in.
Yeah.
The more you surround yourself with English in your daily life, the faster you'll pick it up.
Love that analogy. So what are some ways we can, create that English swimming pool?
Oh, there are tons of fun ways. Easy stuff, too.
Okay.
You could start by switching your phone and social media settings to English.
Hmm.
Try figuring out the lyrics to English songs.
Right.
Watch movies and shows without subtitles. Those little things can actually make a big difference.
Yeah, that's true. It's about making English a normal part of your day, not just something you study for an hour.
Right. And speaking of making it fun, the guide talks about language learning apps.
Oh, yeah.
They're a fantastic way to practice, like on the go.
I love language learning apps.
Me too.
It's like having a little tutor in your pocket.
They really are.
Right.
The guide recommends a few popular ones, depending on how you like to learn.
Okay, cool.
For example, Duolingo is great for beginners and, intermediate learners. Memrise is all about vocabulary, but in real-world contexts.
Right.
Babbel focuses more on grammar and conversation practice. And if you're into flashcards, Anki is the way to go.
Yeah, there's definitely an app for everyone out there. I've tried Duolingo and Memrise. They're both really good, and they keep you engaged.
That's great.
But the guide also makes a point of saying that even with all these amazing tools, consistency and patience are still key.
Oh, absolutely. Learning a language, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're not going to become fluent overnight.
Right.
It takes time and dedication. You got to be willing to stick with it through the ups and downs.
So how do we stay motivated? How do we not get discouraged when it gets tough?
Right? Well, the guide has some ideas for that. First, make a study schedule that fits your life.
Okay.
Even just 15 minutes a day. If you do it consistently, it can add up.
Yeah.
Second, give yourself little challenges every day.
Like what?
Learn a new word, tackle a grammar rule, practice a specific phrase.
Oh, that's good. Like mini goals.
Right.
To keep you moving forward.
Exactly. And here's another important one. Reframe your mistakes. See them as opportunities to